Okay, the subject is DMM, Document Manager. Now, take me to, let's go to, we have here a data folder, your data folder. Okay, and let's go there for a moment. Now, this is your live data that you're backing up every night, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, we're going to create a folder which will naturally be created under here called document DMM. Okay, so one folder up from there will, I'm not sure why not get the response. It's going to create a folder by natural path right there called DMM. And in there, you've got some structure stuff and the actual database that manages the files. Okay, but the images, and naturally in the setup of this, the images will be stored in the same path, which are kind of static. You know, once you put a DM document in there, it doesn't really change. So you may want to change the location of the documents to be into another backed up when it's a new document, but not backed up every night.
Okay.
If you see what you see what I'm getting at.
So we can tell projects where to go get the documents.
Exactly correct. So let me do the course setup first, and then we'll manipulate it after it finishes its normal creation, and then you can do the changes to the system. So we're gonna turn on DMM first of all. Let me get the activation code and get that going first. Okay, so I'm gonna put this back on tape. So the tape was off. So what we're doing is when we activate DMM, it goes ahead and creates this high-level folder here. And then it creates a series of subfolders. The data folder contains the database where all the documents that have been added. The templates, you can actually have a template Excel file, and you can copy that Excel file into this folder, into the live document folder. And then you've got a document folder where you can keep track of all your documents. And what happens under this store document is it creates a hierarchy of project numbers or customer codes. And they are all subdirectories of this folder here. Did that make sense what I just said, Tom?
So we're going to have a subdirectory, a subfolder for every project that we scan documents into.
That's correct, yes. And you can also do it at the customer level too. So it'll use the customer code. Like if you've got zone listings or contracts to the customer or tax certificate, all those kind of documents will be stored under the customer code. Okay?
Got it.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I have to do is put in your contract code. So let me, again, to pause the tape and create that 1 second. Okay, and your contract code is Baker.3K RDT semicolon. Okay. And then we exit save changes. Come over here to this guy. Okay, good. And then what we do is click on DMM, and it's going to create those folders, and then I'm gonna, well, again, now, so now if we look in our data folder, go up one folder, we should have a DMM folder. Why don't we? Why don't we?
You're in our data is separate from our programs.
Okay.
So you're in our data folder. if you go to, keep going back, go to, okay, Server 1 programs. Here.
Oh,
Okay.
well, we should have looked closer at that then. Shoot.
And then here's,
Okay. So there's where it created the DM, which is not where you want it.
I don't know.
That's not being backed up, right?
Oh, it is.
Well, we can either move it or it's up to you. What you want to do?
Let's move it. Let's get it under our data, which
Okay.
is RWC data.
Yeah. So let's do this. So we now have everything in the right folder with the system. Now, so the default login, the senior login is admin. And that gets you, okay. There you go. That gets you to the high level of the system. And then you can come over here to setup. The admin user has setup capability. And you can edit users, and you see, let's see, cancel. Let's see, edit user, delete user. So, do you want to be in this, Tom, or
huh?
do you want to? Okay. Do you want to be in this list?
Oh no.
Okay. So we'll add a user, and let's come over here. Add user. If you give a document a security level 0, everybody can see it. Okay, invoices, yeah, PDFs, quotes from vendors, all those give level 0. If you give it a 1, if you give the document a 1, then people that have a 1 or 0 can view that document. So, for example, if you've got contracts that you've given a level 1, and you don't want technicians to be able to see contracts, you just don't give them level 1.
So do we have to implicitly list it, or can you just give Kim a 9?
Well, you have to. Yeah, you have to give them all. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. So whatever privileges you want them to see, you actually implicitly have to list them, and then they're available to be selected, understanding that she can put something all the way to a 9, but if the person doesn't have 9, they won't be able to view those documents. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah.
Okay. And now we've done, so they can edit and they can view. There you go. Okay. And then if you want her to have delete capability, we go ahead and give her all the delete, so she can delete all the way down, all the way up to level 9 docs. Okay.
So how does this work with the users? How many users?
Well, you've bought one license. That means that one person at a time can get in.
Okay.
So everybody, you can set all the different users up. It's a matter of who can get in at the same time.
So it's a use.
It's not. It's a. How do you want to call it? What's?
Per user.
Yeah, it's concurrent users. That's what it is. That thing. Okay. So we've got Kim set up, and then you just come over here and add the next user, whatever those things are. Got me? Okay. Now, any questions about that before we move on? Okay. Now we're back. Now let's go back to the types, and this is where we're trying to do this, and this is where we're going to do an invoice, INV like so, and then we'll say invoice. And this is a customer invoice or vendor invoice. What kind of invoice is it?
Customer.
Okay.
Both.
Customer invoice, and we hit save. Okay, fine. So now it's working. This is the way it's supposed to be. So there was something with the Borland engine that wasn't happy there for some reason. But that's what this is supposed to look like. Okay. And then, you know, drawings, you can add different types of documents, and you can delete the ones you don't want. Make sense? Now, another document that I might put in this list would be a quote from vendor quote. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I press the add type here, and I'll do quote like so, vendor quote, something like that. Hit save, and now that's in the list as well. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, on the you've got this sample company, which is there for purposes of demonstration. If I were to double click on this, this would be listing now the documents under that customer. Okay, and I can yeah. Now there's also, let me just check setup. There's also a text it. Okay. Now, if we go into a project, edit. What's a project that we want to put a document for? Do you have one in mind?
28. Well, this one's got a 2-digit suffix.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
88428 IC.
Fine. Like so. Okay. Is there a dash in there or something?
8428.
Did I do it right?
Yeah. 884.
Oh, maybe this person doesn't have master on. Okay.
No, I did.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about that for one mic. Postpone. Maintain salespeople. Who's that user? We're in his NW NMMN.
I haven't gotten that far with her. She's not in here.
Oh, okay. So you put it here, and then you give her master on, and then you take out all that good stuff, right? Okay, good. Okay, so back to where we were, back in our document here. And we have our docs folder right here, okay? And we click on this guy here, and because you don't have enhanced security in place, it's going to prompt you for the user ID.
Okay.
So we're going to do K what?
KAB.
KAB, and then admin. That's how we have it set up right now. Okay, good. Now, it says here, this project is not found in the document manager. Do you want to add? And we can say yes, and we'll add it in. And what it brings is that it gets the contact information out of this guy, and it saves it. Now, the benefit of this is later on you could merge this into an Excel file for like a letter of transmittal or something like that. So that's why it's doing this particular function. But you see, we just added the project to the DMM, and now we can go over to documents, click over there, and this is where we can have our documents. And then the stored functionality is where you could have like a letter of transmittal and say copy this letter of transmittal into the stored document. And you know what the letter of transmittals are about, right?
Well,
communicating with contractors, that, you know, that whole.
yeah, but are you saying that you can have a stored letter of transmittal?
Yeah, they're Excel files, and you can have a stored letter of transmittal. That's exactly correct. Yes. And I've got a couple samples in here. So request for information, letter of transmittal. Come over here to edit, and now this is going to bring up Excel if it's wired up right. It didn't. We'll come back to that discussion. Okay. It should have fired up Excel, but it didn't. I'm not sure why it would have.
What's Excel on this machine?
Pardon me? Oh, there's no Excel on this machine? Okay. So we'll come back up to that subject. Okay. So for the primary purpose then, we want to store documents. The first functionality would be simply an add function down here. And we can press the add button here, click. And this is where you can navigate to where the stored source document is. So you come over here to this guy, and you would go to your scan folder, for example, when that was somewhere. Where was that?
You go down the network.
Got it? There we go.
Server 1. Here, I'll get it.
You can drive, yeah. You may want to make these map drives so you can get there easy.
Yep. We just added this one this morning.
I got you. Okay, we can take that document there. So you picked up the document, whatever that was, and it has the file name in its original format, and then it gives it a description which you can modify. Okay, so you can say, give it, whatever this is, and then you have the type of document, and there would be whatever that list is that you've created. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And then this is where you give it that security level. So, now we have that person, because we're logged in as Kim, has all the options. The default is 0, which means everybody can view it. Got it?
Right.
If this were a contract and you gave it a different level, then only the people that had this level could see that document and or view it. Okay? The default is 0, which is fine. You have to have this selected. It will not let you save it without it. Okay? And you see what it's just done, is it's created a folder with trailing backslash, because we're about to put documents. It also created subfolders if you want to take those into account. And that structure is set up in the source. There's a source folder that has these structures. So it will create this path for you if you want to apply it. If you don't care, it's going to put it right there at the root, call it a happy day. The root of this folder. Now, the last function is this guy right here. Leave the current document or delete after a copy. So this is the option you get to do. If you don't care about it in its original location, you want to get rid of it, then you'll say delete. If you want to keep a copy, then you'll say leave it alone, and it will leave it there. Okay. And it only deletes it once it knows it's in the second location. So you don't lose it. If there's any errors in the copy function, it will not delete it. Okay. And so, but I'll leave it there because I don't know what that document is. Okay. And when you're happy with this particular document, you can just say save, click, and now it's in a document. Okay. And now, if we double click on this, click, it brings up our browser, and it should view the PDF. There you go. Okay? Repeat.
Looking good.
Okay, good. Now, there is also, we have found sometimes certain documents don't, if you just double click on a document, and you get our viewer, which is a kind of a hybrid HTML viewer, and it should view fine. But if you find it doesn't view fine and well in this one, then you can click on this edit one, and then it brings up the formal, whatever the registered viewer is for that particular type of document. In this case, it's PDF, so it's bringing up your Acrobatic Reader. If it were a Word file or something like that, then it would fire off the edit Word file executable. So most times our viewer works fine, but occasionally, like on a terminal server, we found it be quirky. So sometimes you have to use this button to get to the document. Okay? Now, you'll notice we have a drag and drop functionality. If you navigate to a folder like that, so we were on network, and drive to a folder again. Sorry, I lost you. So drive to your network again. Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to scan the same document just for purposes of demonstration. So if I come over here to this guy, and I scan this document into this folder like so, click on this. And oh, by the way, you can select multiple documents. Like I could say select all of these, for example, and drag them into the system. It will loop through adding all those documents at the same time. Okay? Under this particular customer. It doesn't re-ask you what the customer is or what the project is. It just puts them under that customer. But again, I'm just going to do the one, drag it onto here, and then it goes ahead dutifully and adds it like it does. Now it remembers the last thing we did, and then you try to save. Now we know that this document already exists, so if you try to save and the existing document exists, then it gives you the option to rename it, put a -1 or something like that on the end. You got me?
But we wouldn't want to drag mixed documents together.
Well, you can do mixed documents, but you do want to be aware of that you'll need to switch it. You will get this prompt, and you can change from for each document type.
It's for each document.
It's going to get it through each one and let you pick the type.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, it's going to come to here, and you're gonna prompt it, and you can change it on the fly. Got it?
Got it.
And then you hit save, and then you'll have your next document. Notice, if we expand this out a little bit, it actually created, it's got the label, which is our description field here, but it has the file name, which is there as well. Okay. And you see the different types like so. You can make edits to this guide, so you can do edit settings. And this brings you in a read, and this gives you the ability, if you made a mistake, you can change it on the fly. So you're not even locked in after the fact. Okay. And then if we were to go to drive me to the folder structure again, where this is being stored.
You want the data.
The data folder, yeah, our data folder, yeah. RC data, yeah. Yeah. DMM, yeah. And then store documents. And you see, there you go. So it's got the hierarchy and an appropriate ... Okay?
Okay.
Now, you can, the hierarchy is stored here. So if you want to create a hierarchy, this is where it's getting it from. So just as a matter of you just creating the folder structure, if you want to create subfolders, then you just put these subfolders here, and then the system dutifully populates them for each project that you're creating. Got me?
So these folders aren't real folders, but they're used to create these folders in the project.
Exactly correct. They're actually real folders. I mean, it's just a directory tree. I mean, it is a real directory. So it's just copying the directory, subdirectory tree that's in that structure folder. Okay. And then you can also, if you come over here to the customer list, you now have a DMM button here. Okay. And you can go to vendors, and you've got a DMM button here as well. So you can create store documents for both vendors and customers and so forth. Okay. There was some, forgive me, the new owner? Joe. There was some discussion about TPS Mobile, and when in fact you employ TPS Mobile, the whole DMM functionality is visible through TPS Mobile as well. Okay?
Okay. There's no storage limitations on your end, right?
No storage limitations on my end. There is when you're adding a document, back to this discussion, okay, there is a scan functionality that you can load. That's a separate set of DLLs that you can load. And then when you use the scan function, it would have to have a Twain compatible scanner. But since you're already using your scan system, you probably don't need that, correct?
Right now, we do not need this. No.
Okay, fine. So you're good to go. We won't go down that road, but that's where that discussion about scanning high-resolution docs came into play, because you can choose the type of document you want, and it brings up a scan screen and all that kind of good stuff, and rescan and all that. But we won't worry about that functionality for now. Okay? Yeah, we can't do that. When you want to talk about the template system, we can call back and have that discussion. Basically, it's an Excel file that has columns, and the whole point of the system, if you were to let's see, documents. Oh, that is the document. What am I doing here? Get back. Exit. Documents. Scan settings. Oh. Path selection. No, that's fine. We're missing a tab, but when you're creating it, there's a new tab called. There's a tab that says the link between the columns, because you're mapping to an Excel file, so that the template, this template Excel file has different cells, and you're actually mapping those cells. But we can't get to it through the screen, so we won't worry about it for now. All right, well, you've got DMM. The only thing you have to do right now is come over here to this guy and add additional users. Okay? All right. Let me know if you have any issues. It is Kim, right? Okay, Kimberly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any issues, Kim, call me and we'll help you further with that. But there you go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. Talk to you later, Tom.